Sevan, I sent Ryan some clips to pull up later on in the episode. By the way,
Ryan's a good dude.
now I think we're on now.
We are live now.
I think so. He gave us a thumbs up.
I, oh yeah, and the YouTube popped up. I wonder why I don't see the chat window in YouTube. Does that take a while to? Does that take a while to pop up, Ryan, or is it because I don't have my window open big enough?
People will comment as it goes. Yeah, it'll pop up eventually. If not, let me know.
Okay. Guys, we're live with James Hobart, CrossFit HQ training team extraordinaire, flow master, owner of CrossFit
Boston.
England. Oh, Boston.
Yeah.
Is CrossFit New England, CrossFit Boston the same gym?
No, different gyms.
Okay. And Brian Friend is just your run-of-the-mill dude, coaches at a CrossFit gym.
Normal as they get.
Lives by himself in an apartment, like spreadsheets. I don't know.
Thank you.
He's a good coach, I hear. He's a good coach. He's not on the L1 team. Never developed any.
Man.
He's never developed any. I'm trying to think of something good to say. I'm digging around in my brain. I'm digging around. I'm digging
Somebody
around.
got a good night of sleep last night, Sevan. You coming in hot right now.
He writes for this South China Morning Post.
Yeah, I got a good. Actually, should have a good article coming out pretty soon with them.
He writes for the Morning Chalk Up. He's a frequent guest on Talking Elite Fitness with the voice of CrossFit, Sean Woodland, and Mr. Tommy Marquez. Doesn't do steroids. Lives in the middle of the country. All right. So the reason why we're coming to you guys live today is the thought is this. There are 3 workouts that have been released, and they have stimulated that giant brain of Brian Friend's. So we want to talk about them because when all 14 workouts come out, it'll be too much, or 15 workouts come out, it'll be too much. By the way, is it 15? Do we know that?
Dave's using this 15 for 15 hashtag. It's the 15th year of the games. We have seen 15 scored events before. I think it's probable that there'll be 15 events.
And James, what do you think? You concur?
I mean, I have nothing really insightful to add to that, but yeah, I think it's dead on.
Did you do DHEA when you were competing in the CrossFit Games?
All right, that's how we're going to start this one.
I don't know. I didn't want you to feel left out. I gave Brian so
it's
much
good.
attention already.
No, I mean, no, I don't think I did.
Ted Schultz, I can see you. You did not. You don't think you did.
I don't think I did.
All right, we'll circle back around. At the end of the show, we'll talk about DHEA. I think that was the over-the-counter supplement that some of the athletes were taking that got in trouble. Is that correct?
I mean, in trouble, I don't think really summarizes the gravity of what happened. It got him disqualified from the games.
For 4 years.
Yeah.
She's disqualified for 4 years. Her team is unable to compete
Yeah.
this year.
They couldn't. Don't they have 2 subs? Couldn't they bring in 2 subs?
Yes, but because she participated in the semifinal, they're going to say her scores and therefore fitness or whatever that was and contributed to them making the games, and therefore we can't consider that qualification.
I think I read the lady's post. Either you sent it to me, Brian, or someone did. It's kind of hard to read because you sense the gravity of how devastated she is. I haven't read anything like that since when Emily Abbott got in trouble. Like, just basically, it's like the person's world is completely turned upside down. Like they're singularly focused on something and then it vanishes.
Yeah, and I
Well,
mean, I
even
think I would say the same thing. I think in the case of the team, it's even worse because you feel like you're letting down those other people too.
yeah, that's spot on.
Man, and from reading what she said, and just taking her word at face value, she clearly, it didn't sound like she was trying to cheat. Not that I'm saying that should get her off the hook, but I'm just saying, like there's no character assassination needed.
It doesn't seem like it in this case. I mean, and she was relatively new to the tape, and sometimes people speculate that those are the people who are most likely to try using some stuff to try to get onto a platform like that. But also sometimes those are the people that have what is and isn't legal, and it is a product you can buy over the counter, so it's like also believable that it's an honest mistake.
Brian, do you know Scott Polinsky?
I know Scott Polensky. Yes, he says.
Jesus, you're padding the comments with your fucking people. It's disgusting. He just said Brian's a killer coach.
Oh well, I think coaching anyway.
Wow. Well, now I hope he never does a thing you tell him.
Just some rocks being hurled back and forth. Your client retention must be amazing, Brian.
Yeah, seriously. You're a great coach. You never listen to me.
No, Scott's one of my good friends. I play a lot of disc golf with him, and he does watch a lot of our podcasts.
Yeah, well, not anymore.
Right. Let's talk about event number 1. When was it announced, and what is it? And is this typical for Dave to start doing this? Either of you?
Yeah, definitely. July 4th was the first announcement, and I think he's made July 4th kind of the first announcement regularly. And I think he did that for Murph the first year, which obviously makes sense being such a patriotic workout. And I'm sure he's kind of zoned in on that date as a good time to start releasing some information. Usually he likes to release workouts that will just give that. I mean, we talked about with Madero's how if you're really serious games, you can obviously recognize that paddleboarding up there 3 times in the last 6 years, and you can probably work that in a couple times skill. But if you're just making the games is such a different playing field. All these things can be available that they couldn't have at a semifinal or an open or a sanctional. And if you just give a clue like that, then those guys can say, like, okay, let me try to get on a paddleboard now. Because some people, they have to put everything into just qualifying that first year.
What is the event? Did you say in that?
No.
Oh, so what is the event?
Well, it's a long swim followed by a longer paddle. The extent of what Dave has given us.
And did he say paddleboard specifically?
Oh, God. I don't know if he said paddleboard specifically.
It's a fair question. You sound like one of my kids. That's like something one of my kids would say. They're not allowed to say, "Oh God." They would have said, "Oh gosh."
Right. In minute 3 of the for about an hour in, they'd be cursing.
I'm not a fan of the paddleboard. I don't see. What do I know? But I don't see it as testing any like common denominator fitness. Nor do I enjoy watching it. And I think it's there's a it's like a trendy component. I'd never even heard of paddleboard until 5 or 10 years ago. It just popped on the scene, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry was doing it. James?
I was just thinking about this because when I did demo team in 2019, we tested this paddleboard event. And it was the first time I had been on one. And I thought before that they were kind of stupid. And now having been on one, I think there are a couple things. I think there are survival skill. I think if you're really good, if you're really fit, I think you're going to be good on the paddleboard, even if you're not the best swimmer. There's a ton of balance. There's a ton of, stamina and endurance on it. So I like the paddleboard a lot more now. It's not the most exciting event to watch, and I get that. But I do like it a lot more now. I think it's a really good test because it will – if someone's a great swimmer, they're probably going to be great at both paddleboard and swimming. But I think if someone's not a great swimmer, but they still are relatively balanced and they are strong, they have good Metcon, I think they can still be good on the paddleboard.
James, do you think
you're going to have to carry this podcast because people are already complaining about Brian's internet.
Oh. That's the
Brian's dick just shrunk an inch.
CrossFit Games.
That really hurt Brian. In all seriousness, Brian takes this reporting and what he's trying to give you guys very seriously. He doesn't mince words. He's very specific in what he says, and the fact that you guys can't hear it, like if you couldn't hear me, it would be my ego that was hurt. For Brian, it's not his ego, it's his integrity. We apologize. He
wore a collared shirt tonight for everyone too, so you guys better be nice to him.
It's just it's frustrating because I can't do anything, or I don't know what to do.
James, when you say you got on the paddleboard and that you didn't think it was lame after you got on it, what do you mean? And you're saying that there's a survival element. What are you talking? I was just picturing someone on a boat and the boat, explodes, and you're stuck on a piece of driftwood with another piece of driftwood to paddle yourself around. Like, and then other than that, I'm not feeling you. I'm not feeling you.
Well, now I think that's exactly it. I think it takes
Oh,
away some
really?
of the
Like a cartoon? Like
yeah.
a
That's
nail?
exactly that's what I have in my head. I was like,
Okay.
imagine if you're just in the water floating on a piece of wood.
Uh-huh.
No, I was so it didn't look that hard when I've seen other people do it, but then you always have to remember that they're CrossFit Games athletes, so they're the best of the world at what they do. I was just really impressed how hard the balance piece of it was, how hard the stamina of it was, and I liked I liked that challenge aspect of it, and it wrecks your arms. I mean, the stamina component is huge for it, and I I don't think it's such a specialized skill. Like people are always like, "Oh, we should put shooting in the games." Like, you could be a really great shot and not fit otherwise, and score really well on that event, which you don't want. And I think you could be really fit and not necessarily a great swimmer, even though Brian's probably going to be like, well, historically, the athletes who win the swim also excel at the paddleboard. I think you could be really fit and not a fantastic swimmer and still showcase your fitness on the paddleboard. So that's why I do think it's better than things like a stand-up paddleboard or something like that.
I'm glad you said what Brian was going to say too. That way he doesn't have to talk. You just did both. You took my words. You took my leadership to heart, Hobart.
You said carry the podcast. All right, I'm going for it.
Brian, someone says that you should. I don't know why I didn't think of this. A guy named John George said that you should just hardwire your computer. Yeah, why don't you just plug your computer in with a Cat 6 cable or some shit?
Okay, thanks, Neo.
About that. That's actually, I was literally just thinking that. I'll get to tomorrow.
Okay, I don't believe you.
Brian, how'd you get electrocuted? Oh, John George told me to hardwire my computer.
Do we already know who the winners of these events are? Well, I know we don't know who the winners are, but is it just like what you've been telling us all along, Brian? Like we're going to see Yanikoski and Tia are going to be the heavyweights in this.
I mean, we talked to Medeiros the other day, and he seemed to think he can to win this event, which I really honestly don't know if he can or not. But I think from the other athletes I've spoken to and things I've seen if it's really that long of a swim, if you have a guy who's that good at swimming as Yona is or Tia is, it's probably going to be hard to catch him on the paddle because they probably at it. I think what James was saying earlier about that if you're an average swimmer or okay swimmer, but you can make up some distance on the paddle is more applicable to the middle placements. I think that the top 5 people will probably just be the best swimmers, no matter how long the paddle is. But once you get beyond that, you'll see some people that significant moves on the paddling portion.
What could someone be really? Could the paddleboard just really hurt someone who's rather a good athlete? I'm not asking that right. I'm just wondering if it's going to expose weaknesses in people that really aren't legitimate weaknesses. Like, is there something about it, like you said, like shooting, or if like it was shooting free throws, is it stable? Can you fall off of it and not really just be because you just haven't had any practice on it? Can someone just
100%? I mean, if you having never been on one definitely makes it tougher, especially you don't have any experience with something like, I don't know, surfing, or if you're not, you could be, if you're a really terrible swimmer, it's not going to make it any easier. But I still don't think, like Brian said, I still don't think it's as specialized as some skills that you could put into the games that would be really polarizing, completely regardless of someone else's fitness.
Ryan, do you think you could find the video of Dave announcing that workout? I think it's relatively short, and find out if he said paddleboard specifically.
I pulled up it here. It says paddle, distance even longer.
So he doesn't say paddleboard.
Nope.
Dave's tricky like that.
Very tricky, and yeah, very tricky. Final question on this before we move to workout 2, unless you guys have something to add. Do you know of any athletes who will show up to the games, and have had zero experience on a paddleboard? Like zero, like that's the first time they're going to get on it?
I mean, you wonder, like the athletes from Asia, for instance, like
Racist.
no, I'm saying depending on where you live in, locked, and it might not have a lot of access to water, and they might not do paddle boarding in that country. So it could be relatively new to an athlete. The most likely for it to be new to. James, if they did a different kind of paddle, like if they did kayaking instead of more or worse or less.
I would like it less, just because the more, like, because now you have the boat and you have the paddle. The more pieces of equipment that I think you add to the event that fall outside of your typical CrossFit pieces of equipment, I'm less of a fan of seeing those things pop up in the games. Yeah.
And I don't think the past when he's done stuff like when he announced the crit, clear you're gonna have to know how to clip in. And I think the first year they announced the paddleboard, he like posted pictures of the paddleboard. So I think if there's an element like that, he wouldn't want to just shock them with it a couple days before the competition.
Yeah, I think Dave really likes to challenge the athletes, but I do think he wants to give the athletes a chance to showcase their best stuff. Like, try and ride this really fine line of like, hey, I'm not going to spoon feed you anything, but I also don't want you to be completely unprepared and look like an idiot. I want you to be able to show me what you have. Like, I think he does enjoy balancing those two things.
Well, we definitely know that every year he wants the athletes. Part of coming to the CrossFit Games is for the athletes to perform something they themselves didn't think that they could do.
Yeah.
It's a place for them to learn about themselves. And in the classic was when he had the 100-pound dumbbell in the regionals that one year, right?
It's an example, yeah.
Thank you. Hobart, you could have responded too. Thank you, Brian. It's one less insult I'm going to give you for throwing
I didn't feel like the 100-pound dumbbell was the best example of that. I think something like the pegboard is a good example, or even the crit was a good example, but that's fine. I get your point, and I agree, and I like it.
Well, that was a big shift.
If there are people who are looking, it's worth noting that the women's field is deeper than it's ever been, because we have at least 3 new athletes this year to swim: Emma Tall, Amelia Lepinen, and Sydney Mikhailishin, who all have some pretty significant swimming background. And there's already several good swimmers in the field. We know Tia and Kara are good, Laura Horvath, Bethany Shadburn, Haley, Sam Briggs, Danny Spiegel. So there's at least a good water athletes in the women's side. So it should be they'll actually do pretty well relative to them, especially on the swimming part.
Yeah, Emma Tall was a mermaid her first 12 years of her life. I mean, basically, from talking to her, I mean, she was, didn't she say she swam for 12 years?
Yeah, she swam for a long time.
Yeah. And Taylor Self told us he was great at the swim, a great swimmer too. How do you think he's going to do?
Wrong.
Is that a trick question?
Yeah. I just wanted Brian to say he didn't make the game, so Taylor had started crying if he's listening.
And I didn't say it. You said it.
What's workout number 2 here?
Of the 3 workouts that we, I think, warrants the biggest, because we know a decent amount, but we know the least amount of it. We're expecting a down and back chipper style work. Never had sled pull, a pig flip, a 42 muscle ups of some kind, and then another pig flip and sled pull, presumably of the same distances, just in reverse. The reason why
hand over. Go back to that one movement you said. Hand over what pull?
Hand over hand sled pull.
So basically, like you're sitting on the ground and there's a rope with a sled attached to it 100 feet away, and you pull it towards you.
Yeah, and I don't actually know if I don't think you're mandated to do it hand over hand. You could like pull and heave and have some of those things and fall back with it or whatever, but you have to pull over some distance.
Oh, okay. I was just trying to picture the look. It's basically that thing that Rich and Josh raced at one year at the games, right, in the final event.
No, that wasn't final. That was there was the 2011, which was the end workout, right, Brian? And then there was 2014 was the push pull that was in the stadium, and it had handstand push-ups and that hand over hand sled pull.
Who won that end workout with the rope pull? Do you remember?
I don't remember if it was Rich or Josh. It might have been neither of them.
I think it was Pat Barber.
Oh, the end workout. Sorry, not 2014. Yeah, I think Pat Barber won. Yeah, he won the final one because he sandbagged the first 2 AMRAPs.
Yeah, I
he-
think
and he was pretty
sandbags an understatement.
Yeah, he
Didn't compete.
strategized. But hey, he won a games workout, and that's always cool.
Okay, so and is there a time domain on that we know, Brian?
One of the big questions is we don't know how long the sled pull is. We don't know. At least I don't. I'm not confirmed. Some people have said maybe they know, but sled pull and pig flip, an unknown variant of muscle up. We don't know if they're bar muscle ups, ring muscle ups, burpee muscle ups, or any kind of muscle up that you could imagine.
But Dave did tell us those movements: sled pull, pig, and muscle, some form of muscle up.
Well, he had Max Green.
Oh, right. It would be cool, man. Okay. And do we know any of the weights? Do we know the weight of the pig? Does it have a standard weight?
No, so this is the reason why I think cool is at this point we don't necessarily, depending on how heavy the sled is, how many do the weight, potential weight of it, and what kind of muscle ups they are. Each of those movements has the opportunity to become the sticking point for a specific athlete or for the majority of athletes. And at this point, it's hard to predict that, or at least I think it is.
And Hobart, why aren't you calling Brian out on calling that a chipper? You're the level 1 guru. Isn't that a triplet?
Yeah,
Down and back chipper.
yeah. It's. I mean, that's not a super interesting thing to talk about. I feel like if you don't go back to a movement and like cycle through the same exact pattern, I don't really call it a couplet or a triplet. But
Okay.
I want to know. Didn't they change the height of the pig between a couple of years? Because that matters almost more than maybe the weight in some cases.
And why is that? I don't get that.
Just because the height of it, especially for shorter athletes, and if they're not as strong as some of the taller athletes, it's a lot harder for them to flip.
Right. Okay.
Just because they're not getting it as high, and reducing the center of gravity before they push it over.
You're right. So like Colton Mertens, like trying to flip an 8-foot pig, it's gonna flatten him. We're gonna have Colton the Pancake Mertens. It's gonna just come down on us. I'm serious.
I don't want to say that about him because he seems pretty strong. And I think this is something that will be in his. He will be good at, but yeah, it's probably a harder push for him than someone who like Fikowski.
I mean, just imagine this. Imagine it's a really long pig, right? And you lift it up, and his hands only go so high, and you're like trying to walk it up to over, and it just teeter-totters over your hands to your back.
Well, did you see that picture Noah posted on his Instagram of him flipping the pig? Like, I don't think Noah's that tall. And I remember watching Austin the same way at 2015 when he had to flip this thing, and it was like he had to like walk halfway under it with his hands over his head before he could finally push it over. And then I remember Spencer Hendel would just like grab it once and it would just flip over 3 times.
Wow.
And Spencer Hendel was second place on that workout.
Yeah.
Brian, is someone in your house with you?
No.
Oh. I saw you looking over at someone like smiling at him. You're just smiling at a monitor over there?
Yeah, because he was
World
talking
Disc Golf
about
Champions on?
No, but if you haven't watched the Final 9, you should.
Is that a movie or you're talking about the championship that just happened?
The last 9 holes of this year's Disc Golf World Championships. It's about the best hour of disc golf you'll ever watch.
Did you see that, Hobart, by the way?
The Final 9?
No. Yeah. It's incredible. Brian pointed it out to me. It really is, even if you're not into Frisbee golf, it's worth watching. It's pretty nuts. So from this shot that we're watching right now of the pig flip, we're not really okay, let's see what Dan does. He's not going to do anything.
He looks defeated.
Where's he going?
I'm just curious if anyone has to actually go underneath it. Like, do you have to go underneath it? No, not really.
But you can almost like power clean it, and that's like a good way. You're almost like power cleaning it to the shoulder and then giving it like a push press / jerk to finish the push. Who's that?
And this is what it's meant. This is what it's meant to look like.
Yeah, he's just doing it like it's nothing.
And not that
Hobart. Have you touched one of these, Hobart? Have you touched a pig?
Yeah.
Are they slippery?
No, because They're that material on the end is like has a little bit of texture to it. They're not terribly slippery.
So if you get sweaty, if it hits your face or your hands are sweaty, it doesn't become slippery and like dangerous if you like slipping forward and it's squishing you.
I don't think it's dangerous, but it could become slippery. I mean, you could if you didn't like move your leg out of the way underneath it. Like I have like when you fail a tire flip and like it lands on your leg if you're trying to prop it up with your leg, like it's definitely going to make it a lot harder.
Are tire flips comparable to this in any way?
Yes, just because of the basic movement mechanic, but because of the length of the weight, but because of the length of the object, I think the pig's a little bit different. And I do think like compared to most tires, these are easier to grip.
Okay.
That's Fraser we're watching right now with the hat on?
No, I think Fraser's
in the
wearing
middle.
white.
Okay. Oh, right. The leader jersey.
Yeah, that's 6, almost 7 feet long.
And how many pounds did these pigs weigh?
It says
It says-
560.
Damn.
It's heavy.
Oh, and it said the length too, right? It said 6.5 feet. Did you just say that?
Yeah, just almost 7 feet. That's the thing to consider too, though, right? Like, Dave is pretty notorious for making those just little increments of upscaling workouts and weights. Like maybe you see a heavier pig slightly. I mean, I don't think you need to have a heavier pig to sort out the wheat from the chaff, but
I mean,
that
this
would
is
sure
one
be
of those.
nasty.
This is one of those implements that people have been waiting to see come back to the games. I mean, I certainly have, because it was in 2015, the last time we saw it, there were some guys who we saw really move it very well, but a lot of it, and I just, a lot less people will struggle with it this year.
Can you buy one of these pigs?
No, I don't think you can. And
Really?
I don't think a lot of people have them.
Well, if you can't buy them, then they probably don't have them.
Yeah, unless you have the in with Bill and Katie or with Dave. And even if you were to buy it, I wonder how you would get it to your house. I mean, imagine the truck that has to bring that.
Yeah, you just sell an arm and a leg.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say about workout number 2? Do we want to talk about who's going to win this, who this suits?
Yeah, definitely. So it's like
Seems
we
like
can
a
see-
hopper workout.
it very well could be a him. There are, but we also know from that they've had sled pulls at the games, specifically in 2016, the rope chipper event. They had to do all this double unders and machine work, double unders and more machine work. Had this long tennis court length sled pull to do, and basically it was completely irrelevant part of the workout, because guys that were coming 7th, 8th in their heat and can move it the best, specifically Brent Fakowski, that single movement. And when we had the rope sled event in 2018, a two-stroke pull is what it was called. In 2018, again, it was the people who could manhandle that sled pull that were, gaining. That's where they were picking up the most time. This is the one from 2016. So they go through all this, and all that matters in the end. This is great because Josh Bridges, he was winning this heat. He's in this outside lane, and he's on a guy who struggled with the sled here. And so you'll see Fakowski pass everyone because he was so good at the sled pull. So if the sled pull and the pig are both movements that we've seen just stop people in their tracks before, that's why I said it's so important that we know what these are, so we can kind of see which one is more likely to be.
Are we going to get in trouble for showing CrossFit Games footage on our podcast?
You might.
I hope so.
Brent Fakowski's posted stats on the Games website. He says he weighs 220 pounds.
Insane. I saw somewhere 217.
Oh, and here you see, just look at how easily he's pulling this. And he literally, you can see this is a great view. He's way over there, and everyone else is way behind him. And they were all even at the start of the sled pull. So if he can pull the sled like this, and it's a much speed, then you can say there's going to be guys who are going to make up some sled. There's also going to be guys who make it up on the pig. And I just think the muscle ups are probably going to be the least important of the movements. 42 muscle ups seems insane.
What I think is really cool too with some of these like grit or like grunt movements is that being really fit, obviously you're going to benefit from that. But if like you can apply your skills and technique to those movements, like that can help even more. Like someone like Fakowski, if you watch him pull, like he's not just using like his mass he like has a really nice technique where it's like arm, and then he leans back and uses his body. So, and probably with the pig is the same way. Like you could be a really good athlete in terms of like squat clean or power clean, but if you can't, if you can transition that movement to something like the pig, that's going to benefit you even more. I like that with like some of those strongman elements or, you know, non-barbell elements with athletes. You're more athletic, and it's a cool thing to see. Like Fikowski's that kind of athlete, competitor.
Brian, sorry. 42 muscle ups. Did Dave say it's 42 muscle ups?
Max Greenfield said
That, yeah.
He did. Okay. So bear with me here. So we know it's a pig, and we know it's 42 muscle ups, and we know it's a sled, but we don't know how heavy the sled is, how far it has to be pulled, and we don't know how far the pig has to be flipped, and we don't know what kind of muscle ups it is, but we know it's 42. That's a trip that they gave that one. I wonder why he did that. Why did he give that one number? And then you have to assume if the 42 muscle ups are not one set, if they're broken up, then that significantly helps someone like, actually, I mean, it helps everyone, right? Because if it's 42 straight, then people could get stuck. But if it's not 42 straight, then it's insignificant.
No, no one's doing 42 straight. And basically, when we saw, there were a lot of people finishing very close to each other.
2018. They had different strategies.
You could do 6 sets of 5 break and be right there next to someone who went 28-2, you know, because their breaks were going to be a little bit longer. And I've seen big volume gymnastics stuff like this done by Brent Fikowski before in Dubai, where they had, I think it was like 60, and he just did sets of 5 the entire time and beat the entire field doing that, when there were guys who started with sets of 15 to 20. But he was just very calculated breaks and able to chip away at that faster than anyone else.
Let me go big picture here for a second and talk about all 3 workouts. You guys are going to love this. You guys are going to hate me and love me. The first workout, any chance there'll be a weighted vest in the swim this year?
No.
And that's a damn shame. I agree with you, Hobart, but it's a damn shame, because wouldn't that be awesome? Okay, second workout, any chance there'd be a weighted vest in that?
No.
Possibly, but I think there'd be a better use for it later in the competition.
And then we get to the third workout, which is the most realistic, right? Any chance there would be a weighted vest in this 550 meter sprint? Because, well, let me ask you this before you answer that. Does Dave ever give just the whole workout for real? Like, are some of them just, hey, this is the real thing?
When he shared Murph, I think, you know, and that was at 2015, 2016, 2015. I think he shared like how it was going to be done and how it was going to be partitioned. I don't quite remember though.
Yeah, I would guess that he would say that it's going to be Murph, but I could see him not sharing how it's going to be partitioned. But you would remember better than me.
I don't.
I was just there to film half naked bodies. Okay,
I don't know. I don't know
so-
for sure on that, but I think that this particular workout, it's possible. I mean, to me, I wasn't really thinking about the weight vest. I'm more thinking about logistically, how is he going to have them run? Because I'm projecting that, like, at least for it's going to be a minute 10 to a minute 30 seconds for almost everyone to do this run, and in that much, start them in the stadium and end in the stadium. Then I think that bottleneck getting out of the stadium plays. So I'm hopeful that he's going to start them. I don't know what the heats will be like or whatever, but I'm hopeful that there's an opportunity for them to start and have like to run before any kind of turns come up, so they can out based on their running capacity and at the start of the workout rather than a lane selection.
Right. I think we know how this is going to be laid out. Go ahead, Hobart.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I imagine that. What if they do this just like they've always done in the past and have some sort of like relay? You know, what is that called? Knockout, I guess. Yeah, like a knockout style. It'll be on the field. It'll be some sort of down and back relay kind of thing. Not relay, but down and back.
And they're going to run fast too. By that I mean, I don't mean the athletes are going to run fast. I mean, he's going to make this thing an amazing spectacle. It's going to be 6 guys up. They're going to open the gate. The horses are going to take off. The crowd's going to go fucking nuts. There'll be a 30-second or 1-minute reset, and there'll be 6 other savages at the front line. That one, it was interesting to me. I never know how Brian's going to react to the workouts. And when I taught, he said, "Did you see Dave release the third workout?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "I love it." And but we'll get to why you love it, Brian, in a second. I want to go back to workout number 2. So can you give me like 4 or 5 guys with just a little bit that you know that you think are going to do well? Is this Roman, Fikowski, Hopper? We're going to see the big athletic dudes?
I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
Hopper will crush this. Sorry.
yeah, all three of those guys, Justin Medeiros, Cole Sager, Pat Vellner. I mean, this is one of those workouts that, for the most part, the guys who are going to be on a Sunday will also do really well on this workout.
Someone just says they have a pig at Mayhem that they believe. Paul Desmond just contributed. I believe that they've been using it this past week, the pig. What about the women? What do you see on the women's side for this?
Seems like Horvath should do really well on this. Obviously, Tia's going to do well on just. Sleeper pick here for the women is Emily Rolfe. There was a workout at the Granite Games a couple of years ago called the Longest Mile 2.0. And granted that the women's field that year wasn't like amazing, but it did feature some of these kind of grunt work, sled pulls, and she won that workout. So she didn't necessarily expect who could do well on this one.
Anyone else? Any other women? Let's talk. Give me one or two more.
You know, this is the type of workout where, well, I mean, this is the type of workout that I'm really curious to see how the younger girls do. Carry, because this is a big time games workout, and I think that it'll be the first insight we have early where they can stack up in this field. So I'll be watching them closely.
So this is like my son when he graduated to the third level of tennis. All of a sudden, he after the first class, he's like, I gotta pee, and I go, why didn't you go during class? He goes, this is the big boys class. You're not allowed to pee in the middle of it anymore. Oh wow! So you're saying this is the big boy, big girl. This is the big boy, big girl workout.
Yeah, but I did dodge your question also. Danielle Brandon's another girl who I expect to do well here.
And how about Danny Spiegel? What's her muscle up?
Big set. I think she'll calculate a game plan and takes, one. If she's good at the sled pull and the pig, I still think she can salvage like a top 10, 15 finish. Probably won't be able to keep up with the top 3 to 5.
And then let's talk about the smaller women, Christy Aramo and Carrie Pierce. Carrie. There's no arguing that Carrie Pierce is a fire plug and a powerhouse, but and the muscle up shouldn't be a problem. But how about that pig and that sled?
I think that where we're at there's an advantage to having some weight behind you on the sled and the pig that will be extra weight when you have to do 42 muscle ups. So heavier, like the fit but kind of heavier than to 10 pounds athletes will shine on this one.
Hobart, how important is skill? Which one of these is the highest skill?
In terms of movement?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the muscle up is.
Right. And can a big person compensate with skill? I know this is kind of a really tough one to ask you. Can a big person compensate with skill on the muscle up where a small person can't compensate with skill on the sled pull and the pig?
Well, yeah, and I think more so than skill, it's the strategy that they can go into this with as far as the muscle up is concerned. And if the big person gets to the bigger athlete gets to the muscle up, they're less fatigued from the pig and the sled pull, then that's a huge advantage for them. But I also will say this, I think considering what most of the games athletes are familiar with and what they're good at, I think if you have an edge on technique in the sled, like we watched Fikowski pull, or in the pig flip, then I think that helps you more, and that's where you can gain an edge. I feel like muscle up capacity is pretty. I don't want to say the same, but I think you'll see more similar capacity there than you will across the sled pull and the pig flip.
We're at the top of the heap here. These are all games athletes, and everyone's got the muscle up. And if you don't, then
well, they all have the muscle ups, but I would say this is a pretty brutal draw of a workout. Because she's generally good on the grunt work stuff. She can sled pull and pig flipping event, but when it's not that she's bad at them. She's been working on them really hard, and she's to work out with 60 ring muscle ups in the semifinals. But like you said, this is the games. So all of the girls that can do without thinking about it over and over again are here. So that weakness might be amplified here. And when it's amplified in a workout that features other things that you usually excel at, maybe just a bad draw for her on this event.
What do you think about women getting taller? Do you think we're ever going to see a woman who's 6 feet tall in the games? That would be incredible.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. Like there's a few girls at our gym who are 5'10", 5'11". It's really wild watching them move, and that's a good question. If so, I think it's one person, like a major outlier, or
Ryan, see if you can find a good picture of a giraffe running, like sprinting, like one drinking water and like lifting its head up and then taking off and running. Have you ever seen those people who are so tall? I went to UC Santa Barbara, and there was a lady on the basketball team who was 6'7", and when I would see her on campus and she would walk like a great blue heron walks in a snowy egret walks in a grassy field. Like they don't walk forward, like they lift their leg up and then like clear the grass and then lower it. That's what it looked like she was doing. Whereas like shorter people like me, I just lean forward and catch myself. Like it's just a different. It's just oh yeah, this is good. Look at these. Yeah, we need one of these in the games. Man.
So Sevan, here's an interesting one.
They're running, but they're not running. Is that the only animal that runs in slow motion? My God. Where are they going? Where are they going in such a hurry?
That's so cool.
Oh, can you imagine the guy who caught that on film?
What has this podcast come to?
Anyway, if you're a woman and you're over 5'10", please train harder. We want to see you in the games. Okay, sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say sorry, Brian. I'll let you go. I was probably gonna say something stupid.
No, you weren't, Hobart. You haven't said anything stupid yet.
All right. Well, here we go. Do you think it's because the gymnastics strength is harder for taller athletes and might even be harder for taller female athletes compared to like a 6-foot male counterpart?
That we haven't seen a tall woman make it, like a really tall woman.
Yeah.
Possibly. I mean, you also have to consider the qualification process and how much years, because it wasn't like that easy to make it. Even and if you were in the open, you had things that where yes, range of motion could definitely play the last 10 girls in or the first 10 girls out, and you know that you're gonna have burpees and chest to bar pull-ups and handstand push-ups and thrusters, where it's just like, man, I have 50 to 70 reps just at a 3 to 8 in every rep. So that was the first step in the process. Now, advance from semis to quarterfinals, and you can get into the second stage where it might be, the type of things that are tested could be a little different than we're used to seeing. And if you can get to the semifinal, then you might actually have a chance to show off some of the things that are maybe advantageous for the bigger side.
What is average height? Do we know those stats still? Like average? I mean, that's the other thing too. Is like I think
James,
the average height of all CrossFit Games athletes is like 5'9".
Fun facts
For men, Hobart.
on the
Yeah, lay it on us.
site today. I published an article called Fun, and it has all these things. So the average height for the women this year is 5'4.8 inches.
Wow.
Okay, so
This is only 5'7", and there are 9 of them.
Oh, that's what, 20%?
So the
big
average
number.
woman is taller than
25%.
Colton Mertens. The average woman is taller than Colton Mertens.
Yeah, and taller than you.
Come on, man. This is my show, man. Come on.
But I think that answers your question right there, Sevan. I think if you see that, that you might see an outlier once in a while, just like you do on the men, right? Like there's not a lot of Fikowskis in the field.
Hey, what's the shortest woman? Has a woman ever 4'11" been in the games?
Like
How tall was Kristen?
What?
How tall was Kristen Clever? She was
Actually,
5
she's
foot.
The shortest woman this year is also listed at 5 feet. It's
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Shall we move on to the sprint, the final event? I know we were supposed to be done, and this show was only supposed to be 45 minutes long, and we've already crested over by 4 minutes.
That's okay. We'll keep going. The you said you the this event's going to be in Sevan?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I haven't look at Hobart. I don't know other than like I think I know everything, but like no one's told me. No one's given me.
'Cause-
I know nothing about these events that except for what you tell me, Brian. I don't even see the announcements. Although I did watch the one with Max Greenfield because I thought it was funny because he's the voice of that character on Ice Age, and my kids watch that show, so I thought it was funny that Dave had the guy who does that scraggly creature do the games announcement. Oh wait, one more question before we go to event 3. Hobart, do people ever walk up to you who meet you for the first time and say, "Man, you're bigger in person"?
Oh, taking shots fired. No one's ever said that to me.
You felt that? I tried to ask that with a
Damn.
straight face.
That was so mean. That was so mean.
Okay, Brian. Event number 3. Tell us, what is event 3?
Well, I actually hope that it's not the knockout style format earlier, and the reason is because I think that there was.
Wait, what is that format? I don't know what that format is. Tell me what is that?
Wait, real quick. Someone says Rebecca Voigt is 5'9". Sorry, that's it. We can move
Okay,
on.
and she's masters.
Well,
And,
she's
I mean,
been to the games over. Like, this is going to be her like 12th or 13th total year.
Yeah.
She has grandkids. Did you know that?
Real? What? No, she's only no.
Yeah, Jesus.
It's possible, but. What was it? What was I? What was I supposed to be talking about?
Format of the sprint, 550
Yeah, you said you
yards.
hope it's not knockout, but I don't know what knockout is. Explain that to me.
Like the last time they had a sprint workout at the games, it was Event 6 in 2019. Well, that had this for. At that point, there were 20 guys left. 8 of them ran, and then they took 10 to the next round and final round, and those 5 were placed 1 through 5 after the final.
And we say bye-bye.
So if you made it to the final 5, you ran it 3 times?
Yes, and I don't think that
Okay.
any of the athletes or Dave want to have people running this race 3 times because I have to believe that this distance was specifically chosen for one of 2 reasons, possibly both reasons. The first is logistics, so that he knew that the course that he wanted to run in Madison, and so that's the course. Or he enough times and he at different distances and he saw the sweet spot right at the 450 500 meter mark and have to push because it's going to be a close race. That's when the legs start to go, that's when they start to lose control of their body a little bit, and the people that are really will excel the last third of the race.
I honestly don't know if he can run.
I honestly don't know either. So I like Brian's second analysis. It reminds me of the hill run in 2009, where basically people were winning it until the last 50 feet, 30, 40 feet, and all sorts of placements were changing.
I have a specific experience with this workout from my past, or with this phenomenon from my past. It was a school football team in Texas, and the entire school was black and Hispanic, and the entire football team was black. And obviously, they're very fast high school semifinal football team, and I was pretty.
Hey, Hobart has a real job, so just be careful what you say. Go on.
Anyway, the coach had me like be as a rabbit for them. He was pissed at them, and he's like, "All right, Coach Friend's gonna get a 400, and if none of you beat him, then you." And I was in a pretty good running shape, and I went for it, but I knew how fast these kids were. I mean, some of them were the fastest track athletes in the school, also, and I was ahead with like 50 yards to go, and my body just gave out, and my legs started going, and one guy passed me in the last 5 yards. So I'm expecting to see.
What do you think, Hobart?
The sprint
550 yards?
The sprint event's always one of my favorite events at the games, just because of the viewer satisfaction from it, the foot race. And I still don't think it's something athletes train a lot. and it showed up at the games constantly. It's like clockwork. And so I like watching athletes get exposed in this one.
Brian, why do you like it?
I like it because it's relatable. Everyone runs, or everyone has seen people run, and they can. I mean, anyone that does CrossFit could go do this workout, and once they see what it is, they can say, "Okay, I'm going to do this workout and see how well I can do against these athletes out there." Maybe some people that watch this show can actually beat half of the field in that workout. If it's the third workout in the day, how would you have done in the swim paddle workout? How would you sled muscle up workout? How will you do on whatever the lifting workout? And then you start to see, wow, these people that are with that's my best workout can also just and this that are so different. So it puts in perspective. They can do everything, are just as good as specialists in specific things like running.
And it's going to expose some people too. This is the kind of event where one or two of the athletes are going to look just goofy as shit. Like you're going to wonder if they've ever sprint, right?
Yeah, but that's what's so cool about the virtual games this year, right? That virtual event that they're running kind of parallel to the games. Like maybe this is one of the events they choose to have athletes compete in because it's so simple to apply. You don't need any equipment. That's what's really cool about it. That's why I hope they don't use a vest, right? Because like you said, Brian, I could just go out and try this and be like, oh, wow, not only would I have lost in all the other events, I suck at running and sprinting too.
There was an event at Wildapalooza the last time it was a rowing event, and it was every division from elite to pro to, and actually the best two scores on that workout came out of the intermediate and RX divisions, not the pro elite division.
What are the virtual games? I saw something. I think I saw something about that today on Dave's Instagram, and as soon as I saw virtual, I just scrolled right by it.
So
can anyone enter that?
Yeah, I think anyone can enter it. I think the signups on the games, but they're going to run similar events to the events that the athletes are doing. Obviously, they were not going to be able to do everything the same, but I imagine like this one is a perfect one. And then you kind of get a chance to compare yourself to the volume and the intensity of the weekend that some of these athletes are going through.
Does it cost money to sign up? Is it like are they using the open, software for that, the open format?
Actually, I don't know the specific detail of that. I don't know if it's free to register.
I wonder if the spectators can do it at the games. I wonder if there's a place where you can do here we go. Here's something. Competition details. I wonder if spectators can do that. Wouldn't that be awesome? Go to the games and then you can do the workouts. That's too small for me to read, especially with these cool sunglasses on.
Starts
July 8th?
July 28th on the Wednesday. Registration dates start July 8th and August 3rd. Price $50.
Okay.
And there's a rule book for it. I love it. That's so cool.
Make sure you read the rule book, people, or don't read the rule book, and you can be on our podcast later.
Here we go. Oh man.
Win this event. Don't read the rule book, and you're guaranteed to get on this podcast if that interests you.
There you go, people.
Oh man. They should. Do they have that in the prizes? You get to go on the Sevan Podcast if you win this event. They should give that to the CrossFit. That should be first, second, and third place at the CrossFit Games. You get to come on the podcast.
I think if you scroll all the way to the bottom and zoom in as much as technologically possible, it's in there.
It's in the small print.
It says the C. Oh, up for interpretation.
I was thinking about changing the name of the podcast actually to get the word CEO, the Sevan CEO podcast or something like that. But man, this thing has such great traction. Already. Overall, Hobart, you first three workouts. Do you have any complaints? Do you have any pats on the back for Dave? What are you seeing historically?
No, I think this is fantastic. One of the things we talked about and we kind of railed about, leading up to this was seeing the evolution of the events as they progress from open to online to semifinals to last chance qualifiers. And I think we've already seen 3 events that are so far different than anything that was tested. And that's really exciting because obviously there are the Brian. There's only one Brian, a friend of the world, but Brian can give a lot of insight into who might come out on top. But I think you get to see some exciting things with a lot of these newer athletes. So I like these first 3 workouts, and it seems like it's going to be a rough weekend.
What about the people who made it a career to professionally bitch about the workouts? They bitched about workout number 1. Is that just to get views on their YouTube or their Instagram or?
Probably.
And secondly, if Brian is really amazing, and I would let someone buy him out of contract with the Sevan Podcast if the price was right. Brian, what do you think about the 3 workouts?
I mean, I like the combination of workouts, and I'm hopeful that they'll all happen on that day, and maybe even the potential for in the night to close things out. But it's a great opportunity I think it's a great combination to kick off the games because, like James said, there's a bunch of things that are being tested either in different capacities, combinations, or just entirely that we haven't seen yet. And there's a big group of athletes here this year that either are rookies games once, and that once was in the last 2 seasons. So this is like a great initiation to what this weekend's them, and it's going to be a different, more difficult, and more intense than they've probably ever done before. And certain workouts are no joke in terms of getting that.
By the way, someone did bring up a good point. Amanda Goodman was only 5 feet tall. I don't know if that's true, but I remember her being very short.
And she's a multiple-time athlete at the games, right?
Yeah. Brian, and what do you think about keeping the swim and paddle event pure versus, and they're already not pure by mixing the 2 together if they are going to be mixed together, but what do you think about keeping them pure as opposed to, what we saw at the games where you're in a pool and you get out and do some GHDs and kettlebell swings? Something about me likes, even though I agree that it's boring maybe and that, but I like having a pure swim event for some reason.
I mean,
not as a spectacle though. So I agree with the haters like that. When they say that.
I was wondered if we would ever see 2 swimming tests at the games, because you see running in different capacities almost every year. It's just a 500-meter swim like we've had before. I think that was great. But why? But because a lot of people, I mean, Medeiros talked about it when we spoke to him. He's like, last year's swimming test wasn't a swimming test; it was a biking test, which is fine. Get in the water, get out of the water, do some work, get back in the water. I'd love to see that tested in addition to pure water test that we have this year.
Okay, are you predicting a second swim event?
Not for this season, but I hope at some point that we have that.
I heard Ben Bergeron's amazing at predicting events because basically he has a spreadsheet where he looks at all the events and sees what's been there and what's not been there. Is that something that you do also on top of just your constant, scanning and studying of the athletes? Do you study the workouts too?
Yeah, I definitely do get too involved in trying to predict what's going to come, but I certainly have noticed some patterns over the years, yeah.
Guys, whose mic is louder? Is my mic too loud? I'm trying to figure out the volume for my mic. If someone on YouTube could say whether one of us is too loud or too soft. We know Brian's breaking up. We know Brian's breaking up, so you can save that. You're gonna hurt his feelings. He's probably already gonna cry when we get off the call. I agree. Someone said, John George said the swim and muscle up was awesome. That was actually pretty awesome that year, and it did have a lot of swimming, and that was really fun to film, actually. To get to see them come out in and out of the waters is an awesome spectacle with those amazing bodies those guys have.
And that was that the first swim event that the games did?
No. I think the beach, and it was like that Murph style with the swim at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that
They're
really
saying
long
all
one.
our volumes are good. Thank you, Al.
Tomorrow an event gets released.
Tomorrow an event does get released?
I think that's what Dave on 7/15.
I'm predicting a lifting event. I think we maybe see 3-rep max shoulder to overhead.
Oh, I'd love that.
And that
then
would be a great,
people-
I think that would be a really cool, something similar to that would be a really cool cap to the first day of competition. Middle range, like 15 to 20 minutes with sled, muscle up pig, have the sprint main, and have a lift in the evening. That's
And the swim and the paddle could possibly smoke people's shoulders.
you don't.
But
I mean,
is that a hard one to?
I think it's the lats. The paddling is very intensive on the sled and do those muscle ups. So that is certainly a factor that shouldn't be neglected when thinking about those workouts in combination.
Is that going to be a hard one to judge, Hobart, if they did a shoulder to overhead? I mean, I know they've done it before. Is there always controversy around that little knee bend or?
Well, if they did shoulder to overhead, that would probably be the easiest of the lifts to judge because it was just you could do whatever you wanted, and the standard would be lockout.
Okay.
Like a
I see
push
what you're
press.
saying.
Push press is harder. A strict press, we've seen be harder. I think like a jerk or a shoulder to overhead's easier.
What do you think, Brian? Get even more specific. You think it'll be strict push, anyway, shoulder to overhead?
No, I was extremely specific in my prediction. I think it's easy standard to measure and judge, and for 3 reps especially, you want to say okay, let's see who can do this. You can do it any way you want. Who can put up the most weight?
Awesome. Tomorrow, guys, we will be posting, hopefully at 11 a.m. tomorrow, the podcast that Brian and I did with Elijah Muhammad that Hobart was unable to make because he wasn't invited.
Oh, I'm taking you off favorites.
And no, please.
But
don't.
Elijah Muhammad's awesome, so
He is awesome. And it
I'll
was a
take
great
that. I'll take that dig.
It was a great interview. Let me see. Let me check the calendar and see who else we have. Tomorrow we're interviewing Max El Hag. That's Travis Mayers. Ooh, got it in there. Travis, what did I say his name wrong? Why are you laughing? That's Travis Mayers' coach and Noah Olson's coach. And who else? Is he Chandler Smith's coach?
Not anymore, no.
Okay. And then in the evening, we're interviewing Gabby Megala. That's tomorrow. And then on Friday, and I'm really excited about this, we're interviewing Brandon Luckett at 7 a.m. A lot of people have been DMing me, telling me he has an amazing story. Can't wait to get to it. And then in the evening on Friday, we're doing Allison Scudds, who's head of the demo team. And maybe we'll invite Hobart to that since Hobart's been on the demo team and there's something he could contribute. Fair enough, right?
I've never been the captain though.
You haven't ever been the captain, Hobart?
No, because it was during Paul Tremblay's reign. But it's cool to see. It's cool to see Scud a new captain. So that's rad for her.
She's not the first. I was asking around and seeing if she was the first woman ever to be a captain, and she's not. Who was telling me there was another one? I can't remember who. Oh, Julie Fouché, I think, was the captain. All right,
Makes
guys.
sense.
Thanks for everyone for tuning in. Brian is going to get a Cat 6 cable, sometime in this lifetime and plug his computer in. I'm glad we're
Hopefully,
70
Scott.
some odd.
I need Scott to bring me one.
That's probably Scott who?
The guy in the comments.
Oh yeah, that's probably the best thing about going live is that we got these comments rolling.
And we say bye-bye.